The good news is last week I made some great progress on getting the front end back on the ground on its original tires. The bad news is the car is now completely immobile because every time I try to back it up or move it forward, the front wheels will just turn every which way and it's actually really hard to move. So today I'm going to work on restoring the steering system and hopefully get it all connected to the wheel. Managed to get everything taken fully apart. I guess that's the easiest part. But I probably didn't need to take this housing off the column because if I paint it and then put it back on, it's just gonna scrape the paint off. I was worried about fishing these wires through the small little holes here, but the column itself doesn't really make it any easier or any harder. So I learned a lesson on that one. Gonna put all these parts in my cleaner and get it prepped for paint and reassembly. This switch needs a lot of work. The spring here is just dangling. One of the return springs, you can see it kind of bouncing around there. So that's bad. That spring right there looks like it's either been modified or stretched out. Something doesn't look right on that one. And one of the wires is cut. This is the brown wire, which is typically ground. It's most likely not an extra wire. They didn't really put extra grounds in. It's got push contacts for the high beams. See the contacts are just full of dried grease and stuff. So refurbish everything. Here's some good evidence that the factory did paint this when it was assembled because there's a little bit of overspray here on this clamp. And this is a really cool clamp. It's got an angle to it so you can actually get to the screw. I like that. All the tiny screws are in this little basket and then each of these items is going in here. I'm not going to do the switch right now because it needs to be cared for a little bit more. It seems wrong to put it in such dirty water, but it's going to get dirty quick anyways. I do change it from time to time. There's several areas where the paint's chipped, So I need to get all the way down to bare metal to make it look smooth again. The casting on this is a little lumpier than I thought, so I think it's going to come out better if I put a coat of primer down before I just paint it black. This piece has a lot of paint failure. It's just flaking off. So I'm basically sanding all the paint off this one, and I think some primer will help it adhere better and also last longer. I'm trying to batch as many pieces together as I can to paint black. This is for the emergency brake. It's pretty overbuilt for an emergency brake, but either way, it's got to get black. I have a little bit of primer left, so I'm going to hit this real quick as it's bare metal. I just did this on my wire wheel bench grinder to clean up all the grease and old paint. The grunge continues. I found this is the steering stabilizer, and this is one of the tie rods. I'm still looking for the shorter side. I think I know where it is, but I'm gonna start disassembling this. This is the fuel selector rod. So there's a petcock valve underneath the gas tank, and this allows you to hit reserve, which is kind of a cool feature. More grunge back here. This is something I can clean to my ultrasonic cleaner while I'm getting some other things ready to paint. This also goes black, so if I have time, I'll paint this as well. All the M8 hardware on a 356 is actually 14 millimeters. This is before they changed the standard, I guess. Because on the 911, most of the stuff is a 13 millimeter. Found the other one. I hope this is the right one. I'll take this one apart too. These rod ends are stuck on the tie rod. So these are alternating threads, right and left hand. So what I'm going to try to do is I've put some extra nuts on there, and I'm just going to put a deep socket on this side, like that, deep socket on this side, and then I'll do another, deep socket on this side, and just use some extensions to pry these loose. There we go. And then, I don't know if you can see this. This looks like it's bent, but this is normal. For the short tie rod, it's supposed to have one end that's bent. This is gloss, and then this is the flat. So I'm gonna mix these two together. Normally I do a 2-to-1 ratio, 2 parts gloss to 1 part flat. But because this is a steering column, it's right there on the dashboard, I want it to be a little bit more glossy. So I got basically 4-to-1 on this. And then this 5 parts paint to 2 parts acetone. So I got a little too much. Here's a mixing cup. I find that when I'm just doing a small amount of paint, these are probably just a little bit more accurate. But because it's hard to stir this, I'm going to put it in the bigger cup. Actually, just 1 cap full. This gives it a lot more durability and also lets it dry quicker. This is a coffee filter. Get all the dust off with the coffee filter. Let's just coat one, and it's a pretty light coat. I'm gonna let that dry for probably 15-20 minutes, come back and do another one. Okay, all these parts have dried overnight, and now the fun begins. I'm actually ready to assemble something for a change. Really happy with how all the paint came out. These are the tie rods. Didn't really prep these as much. There's some little bit of pitting on the ends, but the steering column came out fantastic. This is the hardware that goes in the car to attach the steering column. Fits perfect. So I'm going to install this in the car first and then hopefully just slide the column right in. The painted steering column is in for good. Really happy with the finish and the fit of this. Probably replate those screws when I get a moment, but I'm starting to put a few other items like the ignition switch. I put the radio plate in. I put the cigarette lighter in. Just a few things to kind of store them on the car as I work through all my part stash. I'm going to leave the turn signal switch out for the time being. It needs a full restoration, so don't have time for that today. But it's coming together. Got to put a little grease on this bearing and put the steering column in. Steering wheel, I'm going to put it on as is, but it's original. It's got a little bit of crazing and cracking on that and really heavy wear here on the top. Just the paint has really just worn thin right there. So this needs a complete restoration as well. Bam. I can feel just a little bit of spring pressure on the wheel. So as we clamp it tight on the steer box end, we want to make sure that that spring is not fully compressed, but it also shouldn't be fully relaxed either. It should be kind of midpoint. You see how it's got the spring on there? Steering couplers are an important topic for 356s because this is not the stock one. The stock one is a single row of rubber, and if that rubber deteriorates, which it will over the course of like 20 years, you should always check your steering coupler and make sure it's in good shape, because if that deteriorates and fails, then you lose all steering. This one is an updated design. It's got double rubber, so it's a little bit more redundant, and the way the hardware is located, if it fails, it'll only turn like 90 degrees, which you're going to lose a lot of steering, but you won't lose all your steering. So this is what is called the safer upgrade, and it works. I will probably, put this in like it is right now, but I'll probably go back to the stock system only for authenticity, and as long as you maintain your car, the stock one is just fine in my opinion. If there's any cracks or wear in it, just take it out and either put this one in or replace it with the stock one, because it is catastrophic if you lose your steering, right? And there's how the coupler looks installed. I couldn't show you as I was putting it in, but it's a pretty straightforward installation technique. I just, haven't tightened anything. There's some lock tabs that need to be replaced. Should be a lock tab on here, and I think this clamp might be too small. I'm not sure why this doesn't really close all the way. It seems like it's open a little too much, but anyways, that's how it's supposed to connect. Now we just have to go under the car and connect the tie rods to that steering arm there. This is the one that is bent. It's a 15-degree bend, and that's required. There's the connection to the steering box, and then obviously it just goes right to the suspension arm there. So I think we should put the seats in, or at least one of the seats in. There are the seat rails and the newly painted bracket there. So I'm gonna slide the seat in. Even though the seats are in bad shape, I just wanna have something to sit on, and I need the space. This is the chaos of like looking for parts and going through the bins of hardware. I mean, it's true chaos. A lot of the bins are labeled like, front beam hardware, but things get thrown in like, these dipsticks clearly don't belong here. But in general, this is what belongs on the front beam. So it's not too bad, but it could be better. This feels great to be back in the seat again. Steering feels nice and tight and real light and easy, like 356s always are. Seems to be working okay right now. And the adjustment works too. But this feels great. Can't wait to take it for a ride. Maybe I don't need to. Yes. I probably put a mile pushing this thing in and out of the garage with the winch. But that's what I needed. I needed to be able to move this outside if I'm working on other stuff in here. So thanks for watching. Steering feels great on this car. If you're interested in the video where I rebuilt the whole steering box, there's a great video on that one, I think. A lot of interesting information on how these front steering pieces work. Also, let me know what you guys want to see. I noticed a lot of you aren't watching the 356 videos as much, and I don't expect everyone to watch every video by any means, but let me know what you want to see. Mac is doing great. I can do a video, just go into the ice cream store if you want. I do have some upgrades for him. I have new seats, and I also have some new suspension components for the front. I think it's going to make it even better. So let me know what you want to see. Track day is also coming for Mac. We got some other new exciting news as well. But thank you guys for being here. I'm really excited about the progress again this week, and we'll see you next time.